Because one of the biggest things I've discovered this last, I'd say 7 to 8 years, is that people have these bio-individual responses to what they do for blood sugar. And so the generic lists of, say, like low glycemic foods, for some people, they still have a high blood sugar reaction to something that otherwise would be healthy. It could be quinoa, it could be cauliflower, it could be Brussels sprouts, it could be things you're thinking, how in the world is that driving a big blood sugar response? But for some people, I would think through their gut's microbiome, they eat the food, body brings it in, and then whoop, there goes their blood sugar. And they need to note that because sometimes they're doing an otherwise healthy plan, but they're not having a healthy response.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Kevin Connors. Welcome to another episode of Connors Clinic Live. Today, we have my new friend. We've talked to Dr. Beverly Yates several times now. You do so much work in the natural realm, and I got to learn more about you when we were speaking off air, and I thought, I have got to have you on our podcast because our listeners need to get to know you and everything you do. We just seem to click because we think alike in so many ways. So, Dr. Yates, Dr. Beverly, you tell us a little bit more about you, if you will.
Sure, I'm happy to do it. And thank you so much for this invitation. My path to the world of natural medicine is probably an unusual one, but in some ways it's probably kind of typical too, right? It's a hybrid. So it's the number one question I get asked is, how did you go from being an MIT electrical engineer in Silicon Valley to becoming a naturopathic physician? And I was like, okay, get ready. So
I would say that there's nothing similar there because I don't know of any other MIT electrical engineer that became a naturopath. So that's what I was so intrigued when we talked about you, just your humility. You got such unbelievable education and you're so humble in everything that you do. Sorry, interrupted. Go ahead.
Thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. Life is just so interesting. You never know what's going to be next. And I feel like sometimes you get put in a place for a reason, maybe for a season, things change, same way people come in and out of each other's lives, right? So in my case, it was through my own illness unexpectedly in my early 20s. I moved from Silicon Valley to the Pacific Northwest with my then fiance. And what I didn't understand about the Pacific Northwest is how rainy and moldy it is. That mold grows on concrete there. It's that much rain. At least it used to be in the case of the 1990s. Now with climate change, I don't know, that may not be quite so moist, but it was then. And it turns out I'm quite sensitive to mold. It made me sick. So what got my health back, what impressed me, being the results-oriented person I am, was naturopathic medicine. It completely put my health back together. My initial symptoms was I was sneezing. I had no energy. I had these deep belly sneezes. Honestly, Dr. Kevin, they were so deep, they would cause me to feel pain in my belly and in my diaphragm area. I was like, whoa, why? Like, that's a powerful sneeze, right? My body was trying to throw it off. It was really reacting to this black mold. My fiance and I, we discovered quite by accident that the house we were renting had mold because we were trying to fix something in the closet. We pulled back a little bit of the carpet, looked behind a baseboard, again, trying to repair something, and quite by accident, discovered that there was black mold. And I was like, I wonder if that's why I was sneezing. I didn't know much about it. I was not in the world of medicine at all then. And long story short, I went to see an allergist, conventional medical doctor, for about a year. We did the skin scratch test. They came up with a number of things that I was sensitive to. And I remember at the time thinking, well, if you scratch your skin, it's going to wheal. So how is this scientific? Because then you have to subjectively look at the amount of irritation when you put the substances from the allergy skin scratch test on to decide how sensitive someone is. I was like, is that scientific? I don't know. So we went through this for about a year, got the shots that were supposedly customized to the things that I was showing to be positive, to have sensitivity to, that were environmental, like whether it was dog danders or cat danders, things of that nature, right? Mold. But I wasn't any better. And I was like, my God, where'd my energy go? I am all of 22, 23, 24 years old. This is the time of life to feel like carpe diem, seize the day. If you don't have energy in your early 20s, when are you going to have energy? And so I wasn't impressed with the lack of results. My husband worked with a guy who had seen a naturopathic physician there in Oregon and gotten wonderful results. He had very similar symptoms to mine. And so I went to see the same person, and I have to say, after about 3 visits, I was so much better. There were a few things that he did that were really striking at the time. One was the man actually listened to me. Our initial visit was for about an hour. He looked me in the eye. He was present.
Yeah.
I had never been to a doctor of any kind who actually paid attention like that. Then we did some homeopathy, we did some biofeedback, we made some really simple nutritional shifts, and it was profound, the turnaround. At the time, I'd never heard of homeopathy. I wasn't aware of biofeedback. I had like no prior knowledge or existing beliefs about these things. And the more I learned about them, I was like, okay, this is really different than pop a pill, like a pill for every ill. It's a very different approach. And for me, it was the right thing at the right time, and I am forever grateful.
So then how did you, so you were so impressed, you said, I want to do this, or what was it? What made you shift to change professions?
Yeah, so the shift came about because, in part, I was really dissatisfied with my experience at that time, in Silicon Valley, originally in engineering. While I love math and science, I think I will always love math and science. I'm just that kind of person. Um, my social experience of it was really negative, and I found that in the workplace that my point of view, my information, my contributions were absolutely not welcome. As both a woman at that time and as a Black person at that time, it was tough. And I thought to myself, do I really need to work in an environment that doesn't want me here? Like, does that make sense after all that work? It is a tremendous amount of work. MIT has never been accused of grade inflation. It's a lot of work. So to walk away from that, that gives you a sense of the dissatisfaction I felt. And at the time I had started, after this introduction to naturopathic medicine, I was still an engineer, and I got involved with some of the local herbalists in that community in the, I would say, northwestern part, central part of Oregon, and did some wildcrafting, things like that. Got to go into an actual watershed, and I'd never been in any place where literally the water was shedding from the land. And once I understood what that meant and saw it, I realized how precious it is in nature and in the environment. We have to protect it. And I got to a very different, more spiritual relationship with that. And I realized now we have to protect our own environment for within ourselves too, whether it's our bodies, our spirits, etc. And what a shift, right?
Yeah, that's a big shift. So then it took a couple of years. When did you end up going to naturopathic school then?
Yeah, so I went to the one right there in Portland. Lucky me, it was right there. It was at that time, it was called the National College of Naturopathic Medicine. Now it's National University of Natural Medicine, and they've expanded the number and kinds of degrees that they offer. And I feel like, the education I got there and the information and the access to the other schools of the healing arts and medical sciences that are in the Portland area, it was just really fabulous. We had traditional Chinese medicine and doctors of Oriental medicine as part of our curriculum and program. The Western States Chiropractic College is there. Oregon Health Sciences University for medical doctors and all are there. There's just a lot of amazing, amazing health synergy. So it was a great place for me to be exposed to all these different ideas and to have a way really to collaborate and come together. One of the things that became later on an offshoot of that was I was honored with being able to be the first hosted residency program. So I was the founder and medical director for the first ever fully accredited in the state of California um, integrative and naturopathic medicine residency program. And with that residency program, I was able to have some residents out in the community and build bridges to other of the conventional medical world, as along with the integrative and alternative medical world, people in functional medicine, all of these things were coming up in the 2000s. So it was a great time.
That is fantastic. And then did you start practice? When did practice start for you?
Yeah, I started practice, was licensed, board certified, all that good stuff in 1994. And before then, I had been licensed as a massage therapist to just earn some money for school and working as an herbalist. And I just really enjoyed the practicality of the naturopath world because, we know how to meet people where they're at rather than come up with some treatment plan that's impossible for people to do or something that's optimized, but it's optimized for someone who has a tremendous number of resources and staff. Instead, we could strip it down, keep it simple, and go for the essentials. Like right before coming on here, I went for a walk. It's a beautiful day out here. It's kind of windy, and I just like I'm going to go get some sunshine. That's one of nature's healers, and I think we have these missed opportunities sometimes to really help people feel better and live a healthier, more energetic life by just living more in tune, more in rhythm with how we're actually designed.
Yes, I like that about because you and I talked about that at one point in time. I can't remember it was last time we discussed it or not. Is about how many naturopathic or many you see. Maybe it's not in real life, but in YouTube's and Instagram videos and TikTok videos and stuff, you see these people that are into natural medicine. I don't know if they have degrees or not, but sometimes they are making very unrealistic propositions to people. And that's the problem with social media, right? Because, young people look at this as this, oh my gosh, that person looks like that when they wake up. I look horrible. Well, it's the same. It's not really any different when you talk about trying to do natural things. People claiming to live this lifestyle that isn't really attainable for the average person. In truth, that person that's making that claim probably isn't living that lifestyle either, right? But we
Right.
we discussed about when we have patients come in, you be realistic about lifestyle changes that they can maintain and still have enjoyment in life. And it's many times it's just those simple little baby steps, like go out and take a walk and enjoy the weather, and don't think you have to go to some club and work out for 4 hours a day. That's not health. Go out and live. So that's why I really, we were discussing this before. I thought that was essential as part of not putting too many burdens on someone.
Yeah, I think there's a way in which sometimes we present health and wellness and medical care in a way that you're absolutely right. It is burdensome. It just adds to the stress and the difficulty. And people sometimes wind up being sorry they ever asked for help. We give them these impossible number of hoops to jump through. Another aspect of it can be stigma. Sometimes people make assumptions about what someone's journey is without ever doing them the courtesy and really being respectful and asking them what is their journey. People might be surprised who are in the world of medicine and health if they just, again, sat still and listened and, find out what got this person to this situation today. Sometimes that backstory is amazing. It's not obvious. It's not linear. Life isn't always this caused that caused the other, and now here we're here. It's rarely that neat.
Right. Well, what's your focus now in the last year? What has been your focus on?
Well, my focus was preparing a book proposal, and then now have a book deal, getting ready for doing more work around the topic of blood sugar and diabetes. And so the topic will be of blood sugar, which is encompasses, of course, diabetes, along with other blood sugar sensitive related kinds of conditions. And the idea is to really help people reclaim their health and their energy through the lens of blood sugar so they can better understand it, understand the natural dance that blood sugar does throughout the day and the night, that the nighttime is a beautiful opportunity to hit the reset button for your blood sugar. But if you've got blood sugar problems and your blood sugar doesn't appropriately reset overnight or between your meals, you've got a problem. And then how do we correct it? And just keeping it simple. One of the things I've noticed about some of the approaches people have to diabetes support, diabetes reversal, diabetes remission, to blood sugar help is that it's complicated. And you're absolutely right. You were talking about, people going to a gym or a club for like 4 hours and working themselves into the dirt. And I'm like, yeah, that kind of workout is so intensive. All you've done is raise your cortisol. Now you're raising your blood sugar because that when cortisol goes up, there goes your blood sugar. You've defeated your purpose. It's too much.
Right. Overdoing something, thinking that you have to make these giant leaps and bounds changes. Now, you did the diabetes summits. That was very successful for you, getting that out. I was interviewed on that. So sugar handling, diabetes, glucose issues, that's been kind of a major focus. Where do you see yourself in a couple of years?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. I think from there, I will start to work more with colleagues of all stripes who really want to do a better job of helping people who are struggling with their blood sugar. We all know that before the pandemic, that many parts of the world, including the US, were struggling with metabolic problems. And the rise of type 2 diabetes and prediabetes has been pretty stunning in these last 20, 25 years. And since the pandemic, these last 4 years, whoo, it's really bad. So I'm hopeful to now, as I both finish the book that's public facing for the regular folks who've got these problems and want to do something about it in a way that's sustainable, that's enjoyable. They can still eat the food they love. They will learn how to cook it and prepare it so that it is healthful. Often that is where things fall apart, rather than eat stuff that you hate and can't do for more than a week or two.
Yeah.
And then from there, expand it to invite our colleagues to come and learn how to help the people that they work with, their patients and clients, have healthier levels of blood sugar. Because that's one of the things I've observed over these last 3 to 4 years as I've met with more colleagues, both in person at conferences, at summits, and online, is that they don't really know how to lead people that way, and they're looking for help as well. So the general public, and then other health and medical colleagues.
That's fantastic. Are you still seeing patients?
I am in my virtual clinic. I've gone 100% online. It's certainly more convenient for all concerned and allows me to help people in a different way and in a deeper way than in person could. One of the nice things is that, because people don't have the stresses and aggravations of trying to drive in traffic, finding parking, all the other things that go with an in-person clinic, I think is a mixed bag. And of course, we screen for people who definitely need to have hands-on. If there's a need for urgent care or emergency care, et cetera, send people appropriately, because sometimes you really do need to actually touch something, image it, et cetera. But a lot of this is very consultative, and it lends itself to online, because what people need is clear information that's actionable, helping them to figure out what's going on if they're using a drop of blood and a glucometer with test strips, or if they're using a CGM or whatever they're doing to figure out their blood sugar. Give them those actionable insights so we take the mystery out of it and help them learn how to look for trends so they can find out if what they're doing is healthy for them. Because one of the biggest things I've discovered this last, I'd say 7 to 8 years, is that people have these bio-individual responses to what they do for blood sugar. And so the generic lists of, say, like low glycemic foods, for some people, they still have a high blood sugar reaction to something that otherwise would be healthy. It could be quinoa, it could be cauliflower, it could be Brussels sprouts, it could be things you're thinking, how in the world is that driving a big blood sugar response? But for some people, I would think through their gut's microbiome, they eat the food, body brings it in, and then whoop, there goes their blood sugar. And they need to know that, because sometimes they're doing an otherwise healthy plan, but they're not having a healthy response.
Yeah, everybody is so unique. Years ago, I had a patient who she would just have literally a sip of carrot juice and her blood sugar would just bounce way up into the high hundreds. And it's so unique. I try to figure out if it was some autoimmune response or everybody's just different. We don't all fit into these molds set out by Merck Manual. So, that's the uniqueness of a natural approach. You're trying to look at each person as a unique individual, not as a textbook example. So, well, any closing remarks that you'd want to give somebody who's, your focus is blood sugar, that is dealing with blood sugar issues? Anything that you could give a pearl of advice?
Yeah, I think my tip to share with everyone is keep at it, stay with it. Persevere, hang in there. You will figure out how to get that, secret decoder ring, if you will, to figure out what's going on with your blood sugar. It might not be obvious. And if you've done, the reasonable things and you still haven't found answers, keep looking. Test, don't guess, and insist that the team around you is cooperative. If you want access to things like a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, make sure you're working with people who can make that happen, who won't be obstacles to you finding out what that data is. I think we should never hold people hostage. They absolutely deserve to know what's going on in their own bodies. And know whether or not your sleep is a factor. Is that what's causing the blood sugar issue? Maybe you have sleep apnea. That can make a huge difference in blood sugar regulation. What if you're really stressed? Maybe your meal timing's not quite right. Nutrition's an obvious one to look at, and there's a lot of detail there. And then exercise, are you exercising at a pace that makes sense for you along with strength training? People lose that opportunity if they aren't building their muscles, because active working muscles are blood sugar sponges. They're a huge help when it comes to better blood sugar regulation.
Well, I hear you saying just keep digging until you find the answer that's yours. We'll have all your information and contact information on this video so people can find you. I just thank you again. Maybe we'll meet up again in a few months and you could do a deep dive into diabetes and how you would kind of analyze somebody. But Dr. Beverly Yates, thank you. You've just been a blessing, and you are a bright, shining star out there helping people.
Thanks so much for your work, Dr. Connors. I really appreciate connecting with you. Take
All
care.
right. Bye-bye.